Hello beautiful makeup lovers and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kerry and today we are going to be diving into a lot of spring eyeshadow palettes that are in my collection. So if that's of interest to you, stick around and don't forget to subscribe. I've got a lot of palettes in front of me. I don't know if I've picked every single spring favourite palette of mine. I have looked through my collection, taken my time, tried to pick as many as possible. We've got quite a lot, so I'm going to try and rattle through them quite quickly. But some of these palettes you might already have. It might remind you that you have them and that you can dig them out for this time of year. Of course, you don't need to use pastels or spring type colours just because it's spring. Wear whatever you like. But if you're interested in seeing a few little spring palettes, I say little, there's quite a lot on my table, then let's dive in. We'll start out with the palettes that I used to create this look today. So for the mattes, I did use the Cosmic Brushes Serenity palette. Like, come on, if you've been on my channel before, you know how much I love this palette. This was my highest ranking palette of last year because, I mean, even the outer packaging, look at it, it is absolutely gorgeous. Nice pastel tones, but also bright pops of colour. I think this is perfect for spring. Now this does keep selling out, but it does keep being restocked. So check on Cosmic Brushes Instagram if you are interested in picking this one up. I like the fact that we've got a bright little pop of orange, if you want to add that in there. We've got some nice pastel-y tones, as well as some grungy tones in this, but you can do beautiful spring looks with this palette, and I feel like I've encapsulated some sort of spring sort of ethereal type of look today. I really enjoy working with this palette. Absolutely amazing quality from a UK indie brand. Can't rate this palette enough. Of course it was going to be included in my spring palettes. Then for the shimmers, I did use the Gourmande Girls Ethereal palette. Now this was gifted to me very kindly by the owners of Gourmande Girls, and this is an all shimmer palette. But when I say all shimmer, I mean spectacular because they are multi-chromes. I do have a video on this palette. I think I have a video on most of the palettes in this little collection going on today, but I did pop the shade Nova all over the lid, and I did use a tiny bit of Luna. Now Nova is sort of a pink to blue to purpley, lilac-y type of multi-chrome. It is absolutely stunning and I'm loving it on my lid today. It just sits beautifully with the mattes from the Cosmic Brushes palette, and yeah, tiny little bit of Luna. But if you're wanting a special palette full of multi-chromes, I don't think you can go wrong with the Ethereal, especially for spring. Now I do have a code with Gourmande Girls and it is affiliated, but it'll save you some money if you're interested, so if you do use that code, then thank you for supporting my channel. But this is just so easy to pair with so many spring looks. If you've got some nice pastels in your collection and you want to pop a nice multi-chrome just over the lid or even just in the inner corner, very nice quality. Then we've got a German indie brand. This is Lethal Cosmetics, and I stuck the stickers on my packaging because I like stickers. Okay, stop judging me. What palette is this actually called? This is the After Dark palette, and I do like Lethal Cosmetics. It's not my absolute favourite formula in the whole entire world, but it is a good formula. I think the colours in this are absolutely beautiful for spring. The tones in this are really nice. This nice pop of pink, the nice sort of tealy turquoisey shade here, the lilac-y shade. The shimmers are very nice and sparkly, a little bit on the crumbly side, but if you spray your brush, they are beautiful and sparkly shimmers. I don't know if any of these are duochromes or multi-chromes. Don't know if this one is a little bit, it looks a little, I don't know if I've used that shade actually, looking at it now. I've obviously used this one, but there's a little bit of a shift in them. They are a little bit special and sparkly, and the mattes are nice quality. A little bit on the drier side, little tiny bit powdery in the pan, but again, nice quality, and if you've got this palette, dig it back out for spring. Now obviously I couldn't do this video without talking about the Beauty Bay Pastels palette because it's a little staple in my collection. If you just need a pop of a pastel, this is really good quality for the price. Beauty Bay have an amazing formula, especially for their mattes, and their pastels are no different. Some pastels are notoriously difficult to work with because they are powdery, chalky, they blend away, but the quality of these ones for the price is actually really good. So I would recommend picking this up, and this is a nice little companion palette. If you just need something a little bit lighter to blend something out, you can just dig this one out. It doesn't just have to be for spring, or if you did want to do a full-on pastel look for spring, that can be super cute with just a little bit of mascara. Really nice palette. Then we've got a fairly new one in my collection. This is the Odins Eye Planet Spirit palette. Now I can't stop reaching for this, especially at this time of year. I think the colour story of this is absolutely perfect for spring. Now it hasn't got pastels in it and it hasn't got a lot of depth in it. It's more mid-tones, but the vibrancy and the fruitiness, like I've done looks with this and I tend to use the orange and the pinks, and it just looks like a fruity, delicious, springy, going into summery type of vibe. Now this is the collab between Odins Eye and Batty Bean, and this was actually my favourite of the three that was released recently, which I didn't think it was going to be because I like variety in a palette depth-wise for mattes, but this is definitely my favourite. The colours that are included in this, mwah, absolutely beautiful. This is limited edition though, so I'm not sure if it's sold out, restocking. Keep your eye on Odins Eye. If you want it, grab it before it goes, because once these are gone, Odins Eye aren't bringing them back because they are collabs with other influencers. Now I did have a video testing all three of these palettes, and I did say the mattes are really good quality from Odins Eye, although some of the shimmers do hard pan and they are a little bit more difficult to work with or pick up on a brush, but if you want to know more details, do check out that video. Then we have an Unearthly Cosmetics palette. This is the Hauntingly Glamorous, which was a collaboration between, it says Alien Cosmetics on this because that is what they used to be called, and Sydney Nicole, and I like the artwork on this packaging. And inside, okay, you might not necessarily think that's your typical spring palette, but I don't always just go for pastels at spring. I like bright Technicolor still. Sometimes I still like a little bit of depth, but I feel like the tones that are in this, especially this Unpleasant Dream shade, this sort of lilac-y, delicious matte, is just beautiful for spring, as well as Pale and Mysterious and Blood Curdling. Like, those three are the three that call to me for spring, and shimmer wise I feel like these two up here, absolutely beautiful shimmers. Really do rate this palette. Like, I know it sells out and it comes back onto Unearthly. I'm not sure how long they're going to keep restocking it for, but I really like the quality of this. Like, you don't necessarily have to go in with the deep reds up here for spring, but you can. Then we've got an oldie but a goodie. This is the Lime Crime Venus XL2. Now I don't reach for this a lot just because it's quite powdery. Like, when I say powdery, like, I've never seen so much kick up in the pan when I use these shades, but sorry for the reflective packaging. I just feel like if you're a neutral lover and you want to keep something a little bit sort of toned down vibe, not bright spring in your face, but more relaxed spring, I feel like this is a really nice one. You've got a lot of neutral tones in this. You do have a little bit of depth if you want to add that, and this obscure shade, which is it a satin or is it a matte? No, it is a matte. This obscure shade would be super nice just in the inner corner. I do like a matte inner corner, and I feel like because of the tone of it, it's sort of like a nice light green. That is just, it's spring to me. It's spring. And then you've got the nice pink up in the corner as well. It's just, it's a different take on spring, a little bit more muted and relaxed, but still real nice. Then very recently, I have just done a video on the W7 Sherbot Pop palette. They have just released this, and obviously it's super affordable because it's W7. I think it's like £12, something like that. And I did buy this because I do have the Natasha Denona Pastels palette, and I wanted to see if it was as good quality, the same type of thing. Now this is exactly the same as the Natasha Denona colours, apart from the extra 3 down this side. So if you take away these 3, that is exactly the duping colours for Natasha Denona. In the video, I did really like the shades that I used. I thought it was good quality, especially for the price from W7, but I don't find it the easiest to work with one of the particular shimmer formulas in this, and it's these two that are the same formula, and it was Sprinkles, I think, that I was having a little bit of trouble with. I do need to play with this again, just to see if it was like an off day, what was happening, if it is actually a nice shade type of situation. But for spring, I mean, even the packaging on the front, how spring and beautiful is that? It's like a bubblegummy, candy flossy, it's like sweetie type of vibe. I really, really like this palette, and I think for the price, if you were wanting something like the Natasha Denona Pastels, I mean, which, speaking of course I've got to include it. Love the ombre packaging. It is very expensive. I'm not sure if you can still get this. I feel like maybe only on the actual Natasha Denona website you can still get this. But obviously this is a little bit more pricey. It's a little bit more up there. So it depends what your budget is and what you're willing to spend on the eyeshadow. But obviously the quality of the Natasha Denona palette is higher, obviously, than the W7. I do think this is a really good dupe for it. But if you are wanting excellent quality, especially with the shimmers, this palette is really, really nice. If you've got Natasha Denona eyeshadows, you know. The only shade I was a little bit confused about in this palette is this purple. I was glad to see a bit of a deeper shade because although it's a pastel palette, I still like to have a little bit of variety in shades. But when I actually pop this on the eye, it doesn't translate this deep, which makes me very sad. I like it to be exactly how it is in the pan, so I know what I'm getting. Like, it does what it says on the tin type of scenario, but that really didn't. The shades that I've used in this, absolutely stunning, especially this one down here called Zest. That is a bit of me. Then we've got the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. Now, I really like Kaleidos as a brand. However, this palette, I feel like the formula of these mattes is different to what I'm used to from Kaleidos, and I feel like a lot of people felt the same. Love the packaging because it's magnetic and slidey. I do think you can still get this on the Kaleidos website, but this is the colour story and I think it's gorgeous for spring, especially the teals at the bottom. You got nice pinks, you do have some more brighter, vibrant chartreusey shades and a bit of grungy green. Absolutely fell in love with the colour story of this palette when I saw it. Like I say, the quality isn't as up there as some of the other Kaleidos palettes, but I mean, it's not bad. It's just definitely not my favourite formula-wise, but packaging-wise, 10 out of 10, and colour story-wise, 10 out of 10. Then we have another from Odins Eye. This is one of the older palettes of theirs. This is the Alva 2 Mini Forest palette. Now, I do really like Odins Eye as a brand in general. I never have a problem with their mattes. Like I say, some shimmers, sometimes there's, you know, a little bit of hard pan or a little bit difficult to pick up type of scenario. But this one is absolutely beautiful. Now, Odins Eye are a Swedish indie brand, and I think this is a nice, if you want a smaller palette, smaller. I believe they still sell this. I probably need to double check if they still sell this actually, but I think it's a beautiful colour story for spring. It is neutral. You do have two mattes in here, so you can go fully neutral if you want to and use the gold, or you can use a bit of the blue as well and make it a little bit more colourful and vibrant. The shimmers in here are super nice. I'm not keen on the split pan, I'm not gonna lie. I know some people like that. I like my shades separate. And we have another from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Bunnies palette. Now, this is the reformulated, remastered type of version because they did have this palette previously. Currently, Unearthly Cosmetics aren't selling this. They said they may bring it back next spring, but I had to include it in this video because I think it's beautiful, and if you've got it in your collection, definitely dig this one out for spring. I could have used this one today actually. Now, the mattes in this, although pastel leaning, aren't fully pastel. They're not as bright and pastel-y as all the pastels in my collection. Does that make sense? They're a little bit more pigmented and like a shade deeper than pastel, if you know what I mean. But the shimmers in this are absolutely beautiful, especially this green, Golden Egg. That is definitely, is it a multi-chrome? It's definitely a duochrome. It may be a multi-chrome. It is stunning. It goes from like a gold to a green. And I just like the way that the mattes are paired with a corresponding shimmer. I think that's super user-friendly and easy, and I really rate this palette. And another from Unearthly Cosmetics, this is the Strawberry Milkshake palette. If you wanted something a little bit more vibrant and a little bit more bold for spring, which I definitely do a lot of the time, look at this colour story and how nice it is. Oh, you've got the bright pink, the greens, the deeper berry. You do have a light matte that's sort of like an off-white creamy shade, and the shimmers in this are stunning. So if you wanted something a little bit, you know, brighter, I mean, strawberries in spring, I mean, a lot of people will think though that this is more leaning towards summer, in the middle of spring, summer type of vibe, but I would definitely dig this out for spring. I think it is gorgeous, and I don't just want to do pastels all spring long. Like, I like bright Technicolor. Then we have the Colourpop palette in a Trance. Yes, okay, we've just been bashing the fact that everybody uses pastels for spring, but look at this beautiful palette. I'm not so keen on the fact that we have like a pressed glitter in the middle, which is called All Aura again. They're not my favourite, I tend to stay away from them, but the rest of the shades are really pretty, especially this nice pink shimmer. We have a matte with sparkle, we have nice lilac-y tones and blue. I just, Then I have two from Nomad Cosmetics. The first one is the Tokyo palette. I am so happy I've finally got my hands on this. I have been eyeing this up on the Nomad Cosmetics website for the longest time, and one of my friends was very kind and purchased this and sent it to me. Thank you so much, Erin. I love this palette. The shades that I've used in it so far, obviously I haven't had a chance to use every single shade in it yet, but I was blown away at the pigment. I was expecting a little wash of colour, a little bit of pastel. It's actually nice and pigmented. The shimmer, beautiful. We have like a matte row at the top, a satin row in the middle, and shimmers at the bottom. And so far, I'm loving this. And especially the colour story, you get a little bit different of a colour story for pastels for spring, because you do have this sort of grey tone. I say grey-y because this one, although slightly grey, it's sort of got a little bit of brown in it as well, I feel. But yeah, I like the shades that are included in this, and I just think it is stunning for spring. Then the other Nomad palette I've picked out for this video is the Fête de Provence palette. Oh, this is absolutely stunning. Nomad do palettes based on destinations. If you've never checked them out before, go to their website. The variety of destinations and colour choices for palettes, absolutely stunning. They're a US indie brand and they are one of my absolute favourites, especially their matte formula is so high up there for me. Look at this colour story for spring. Like, you could go very monochromatic with this. I like the fact that we've got everything in columns so that you can just stick to a monochromatic look, but also you can mix things up. I really like the fact that they've put the purple and the yellow next to each other because they're beautiful contrasting colours, and just to do a spring look with the yellow and the purple would be absolutely stunning. The standout shade in this palette is definitely the one in the middle. It's the cherry on the cake with this palette. It is super special and spectacular, and obviously I've had to stick my finger in it. Look at it. Look at it. Then we have the Give Me Glow palette called Pastel Dreams. Of course there was going to be a lot of pastel palettes included in this video because pastels, spring, you know, but the pan sizes in this make me so happy. I know some people like really small pan sizes. I do like a big pan size, and these are absolutely delicious. And again, we've got corresponding shimmers to each of the mattes. And for spring, this is just so easy. You could just pack one or two of the pastels on the lid and out of the door you go. You could just have a pastel rainbow on your eyes. This palette is perfect for that. It is beautiful. And like I say, I really like the fact that we've got a corresponding shimmer with each of the mattes, and the quality of this is absolutely fantastic. I really do like Give Me Glow, and I've trapped my finger. Then we've got more of an affordable option. This is the BH palette. It's Lost in Los Angeles, and this is now being sold in Superdrug. I couldn't believe I was seeing actual BH palettes in front of me in a shop. Then that's because Makeup Revolution have bought out BH Cosmetics, so now they are stocked in Superdrug, which is amazing to see them in person. This is a nice pastel palette, but you do have different tones in this as well that are not as pastel. So you do have the brown and you do have this sort of deeper orangey shade. The shimmers in this are really good quality. I actually did a video comparing this to the Natasha Denona Pastels palette and seeing if I could create the same look with both different palettes and see how they fared. So if you want to check that video out, please do, because this palette, for the price, like, if you want real good quality pastels at an affordable price, this is the one I would point out to you. Then I have the Mercury Retrograde by Huda Beauty. One of the older palettes in my collection, but nonetheless a staple because the colour story in this is so beautiful. Still in love with the packaging, absolutely love it. The pinks, the purples, the neutrals, and then you've got this nice sort of tealy colour up here. The shimmers in this are beautiful. If you want to create more of a subtle look with this one, I feel, but still kind of sparkly, pretty, this is making me want to play with it again. Every time I open this palette or I talk about it, it just makes me want to use it again, just because it's one of those colour stories that you look at and it's so aesthetically pleasing. But I feel like this could create so many nice different spring looks that are on the more relaxed, subtle side. Then one of the newer ones from Beauty Bay, this is the Retro Love palette. I have done quite a few looks with this palette on my channel now. Again, Beauty Bay formula, amazing. Price point for these palettes, amazing. This is one of the limited edition ones, so it's £20. And we do have a really nice white in here. We do have pastel tones, but we have some more mid-tones and deeper tones as well. So I feel like this is a good all-rounder if you're looking for something that's not just pastels. And the colours included I really like. When I first saw this palette revealed, I was thinking, I don't know what Beauty Bay are thinking, I don't understand the colour story, but actually using the palette and creating various looks with it, I'm like, okay, it makes a lot more sense to me now, and I really did like the looks that I came up with, and it showed me the versatility of the palette. So I actually really rate this one, colour story wise now, and yeah, it's probably one of my favourite Beauty Bay palettes. Now if you were looking for pastel heaven for spring, look no further. I have the answer. This is the P. Louise Aligning My Future palette. It is absolutely huge. It looks like a book and it lights up. I do have a 2-look video with this. If you're wanting to see it, yeah, can you see the little star lighting up? Yeah, it's P. Louise packaging is very extra. Now on one side we have this colour story. Now it does go slightly deeper. They are all still quite pastel apart from the very bottom row, which is the row closest to me. I I do think it could have been scaled down, this one, slightly, because we do have a lot of similar tones and they would translate more or less the same on the eye. But if you're wanting a variety of choice for pastels, I mean, the reason I bought this palette was for this side though. Look at this side. Absolutely beautiful. And these are actually really good quality pastels, to be honest. I enjoyed working with them, but I do make sure that I pack on rather than do big swipey blendy motions, because that does generally just blow the pastels away. Like, the pigment doesn't tend to stay, so I do like to pack. So if you want to see how I'm using this palette and how I do use pastels in general, do check out the video where I'm using this palette. But the colour story on this side with the purples and the blues and the greens, so pretty. Then I have a Glamlight palette. We're not going to talk about Glamlight's customer service because I really dislike Glamlight's customer service. But now you can buy them on the Monolith shop, which is for EU, and is it just EU? I can't remember. But this is the ice cream palette. Is that what it's actually called? Ice Cream Dream. I mean, could you get any more spring than this, even just with the packaging? The quality of Glamlight's shadows, I have to say, is excellent. I think their formula is improved the newer the palettes that come along. But considering this is a slightly older one now, I think it's beautiful. Like, you do have the pastels, you have so many shimmer options, and you do have a little bit of depth toward the top. Absolutely stunning, variety of colours. Delicious like an ice cream. Then for the Makeup Revolution fans, I have here the, what is it called? Summer of Love Shadow Palette with Margin Homer. If you don't know, I'm a big Simpsons fan. I've probably seen them all. Absolutely love it. And am I a sucker for buying anything The Simpsons? Just yes in general. So of course I was going to be picking this one up. I do have a video on this, and the colour story inside, although it's called Summer of Love, I feel like you could do some nice spring looks with this. Again, we don't always want pastels, but there are a few pastel-y tones included in this, and you do have some more brighter pops of colour. I mean, for spring type of looks, you have the nice light green, you have the nice light pink, another nice pinky tone here, a bit more of a peachy tone, the mustardy yellow. I feel like the light shimmers as well, you could just create a nice pastel-y look. So if you have this in your collection and you didn't think about it for spring, maybe you could dig it out. Okay guys, I don't know how many palettes that was. I've now got to remember where these all came from and put them back on my shelves, so that's fun. Please do let me know, do you have any of these palettes? Are you using them for spring? Do you use them all year round? And what is your makeup style for spring? Do you follow the seasons with your makeup, or do you just do whatever you want to do? I hope this has given you some inspiration of colours, colour stories, palettes you may have forgotten about for spring. But remember, you don't have to just do pastels for spring. And you don't just have to do deep shades and rich shades for winter. You can do whatever you want any time of year. Thank you for checking out this video, guys, and thank you for the people that stay right till the very end. I will have all of my socials linked down below, as well as my Patreon group and my YouTube membership, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye!